I was falsely accused of SA by my 13-year-old niece. My family disowned me, my GF left, and I lost everything. But 6 months later the truth comes out and now they want to reconcile. No way. I never thought my life could fall apart in the span of 48 hours. But it did. And the person who destroyed everything I'd built wasn't some stranger or enemy, it was my own 13-year-old niece, Madison. My name is Derek Patterson, and I'm 38 years old. Or at least, I was 38 when this nightmare began. Before everything happened, I had what most people would consider a good life. I worked as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm in Columbus, Ohio. My girlfriend Jessica and I had been together for 4 years and were talking about getting engaged. I lived in a decent apartment, had a solid group of friends, and was close with my family. My sister Vanessa was 4 years younger than me. She'd gotten married young to a guy named Troy, and they had Madison when Vanessa was only 21. Growing up, Vanessa and I had been tight. After our parents divorced when I was 15, we'd leaned on each other through the chaos. I helped her with homework, drove her to soccer practice, and later gave her advice when she was struggling in her marriage. Madison had always been a quiet kid. Shy, bookish, the type who preferred reading fantasy novels to playing outside. I'd been the fun uncle who bought her books for her birthday and took her to the comic book store when her parents were fighting, which happened more than anyone wanted to admit. Troy drank too much and had a temper. Vanessa stayed because she thought it was better for Madison to have both parents at home. I'd argued with her about it more than once. The accusation came on a Friday evening in March. I'd gone over to Vanessa's house for dinner like I did every couple of weeks. Jessica couldn't make it because she had a work deadline, so it was just me. Troy was out of town for his construction job, which honestly made the evening more pleasant. Madison seemed quieter than usual during dinner, barely touching her spaghetti and excusing herself early to go to her room. I helped Vanessa clean up the dishes, and we talked about normal stuff, her job at the dental office, my upcoming promotion review, whether she thought Jessica and I would really get engaged this year. Everything felt ordinary. Safe. I left around 9, drove home, watched some TV, and went to bed thinking about what a perfectly unremarkable evening it had been. Saturday morning, my phone started ringing at 6:30. It was Vanessa, and she was screaming before I even got the phone fully to my ear. How could you? How could you do that to her? To my daughter? I sat up in bed, completely disoriented. Jessica stirred next to me, looking confused. Vanessa? What are you talking about? Madison told me everything. She told me what you did last night after dinner. You're sick. You're disgusting. I'm calling the police. The words hit me like a physical blow. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might throw up right there. What? Vanessa, what did she say? I didn't do anything. She said you came into her room after I went to the bathroom. She said you touched her. Don't you dare lie to me. Jessica was fully awake now, staring at me with wide eyes. I could barely breathe. That's not true. That didn't happen. I never went near her room. Vanessa, please, you have to believe me. I never want to see you again. Don't call me. Don't come near my house. If you try to contact Madison, I will make sure you rot in prison. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Jessica asked me what was wrong, and I couldn't even form the words at first. When I finally told her what Vanessa had accused me of, her face went pale. That's insane, she said. You were only there for like 3 hours. You came straight home. But I could already see the doubt creeping into her eyes. That tiny flicker of uncertainty that would eventually grow into a chasm between us. The police showed up at my apartment on Sunday afternoon. 2 detectives, a man and a woman, asked if they could come in and talk to me. I let them in because I thought that's what innocent people did. I thought if I just explained everything, they'd realize this was a misunderstanding. I told them the truth. I'd been at my sister's house for dinner. We ate, we talked, I helped clean up, and I left. I never went into Madison's room. I never touched her inappropriately. I never did anything wrong. The male detective, whose name was Harrison, took notes with this expression that made my skin crawl. Like he'd already decided I was guilty and was just going through the motions. The female detective, Rodriguez, seemed slightly more neutral, but she kept asking me the same questions in different ways, like she was trying to catch me in a lie. Did you go upstairs at all? No. Did you use the bathroom? Yes, the one downstairs. Did you see Madison after dinner? Only when she said goodnight before going to her room. Did you hug her? No, she just waved from the stairs. They asked if I would be willing to come down to the station for a formal interview. My hands were sweating, And every instinct screamed that I should call a lawyer, but I was terrified that asking for one would make me look guilty. So I said yes. The interview at the station lasted 3 hours. They recorded everything. They asked me about my relationship with Madison, whether I'd ever been alone with her, whether I'd ever noticed anything different about her behavior around me. Each question felt like a trap, and no matter how I answered, I could see them interpreting it through this lens where I was already a predator. They didn't arrest me that day. They said the investigation was ongoing and that I shouldn't leave town. When I got back to my apartment, Jessica was packing a bag. "I think I should stay at my sister's place for a few days," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Jess, you know me. You know I would never." "I know," she interrupted quickly. "I just need some space to process this. It's a lot." She left that evening. She took more than a few days' worth of clothes. By Monday morning, everyone knew. Vanessa had told our mom, who told our dad, who told his wife, who told her kids from her first marriage. My phone exploded with messages. Most were from family members saying they were shocked and disappointed and couldn't believe I'd do something like this. A few were from friends who'd heard through the grapevine and wanted to know if the rumors were true. The worst message came from my mom. "I raised you better than this. I don't know who you are anymore." I tried calling her. She didn't answer. I tried calling my dad. He picked up, listened to me deny everything for about 30 seconds, and then said, "Vanessa has no reason to lie, Derek. Madison has no reason to lie. Maybe you need to get help." Then he hung up. My younger cousin Emma, who had always been close with, sent me a single text, "Stay away from my kids." The isolation was suffocating. Within a week, I'd been cut off from nearly everyone I'd ever cared about. The few people who said they believed me also said they couldn't be seen supporting me right now because of optics. Because people might think they condone what I allegedly did. My best friend since college, Marcus, was one of the few who initially reached out. We'd been roommates for 3 years, stood up at each other's important moments, knew each other's worst secrets. He called me 4 days after the accusation hit, and I thought maybe, finally, here was someone who would stand by me. "Man, this is heavy," he said. "I just want you to know I'm here for you." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. You have no idea how much. But I've got to be honest with you, Derek. My wife is pregnant. We're having a daughter. And she's really uncomfortable with me staying in contact with you right now. Just until this whole thing gets cleared up, you know?" The relief curdled into something bitter. "Marcus, you've known me for 12 years. I know. And I believe you, bro. I do. But Stephanie is hormonal and scared, and I can't have this stress on her right now. Once everything blows over and you're cleared, we'll grab beers and laugh about this whole mess. Just give it some time." He never called again. Even after the truth came out, I never heard from him. Turns out once everything blows over was just a polite way of cutting me loose forever. My neighbors, who I'd exchanged pleasantries with for 3 years, started crossing the street when they saw me. Mrs. Chen from 3B, who I'd helped carry groceries up the stairs countless times, looked through me like I was invisible. The elderly couple in 2A, who always invited me to their annual barbecue, suddenly had their grandson change their locks and install a security camera pointed directly at my door. I ordered groceries online because going to the store meant enduring stares and whispers. One time I tried to go to the pharmacy to pick up sleeping pills my doctor had prescribed, because sleeping had become impossible, and the pharmacist looked at me with such undisguised disgust that I walked out without the medication. Jessica called me after 5 days. She was crying. "I can't do this," she said. "I want to believe you, but everyone is saying you're guilty, and my family thinks I'm crazy for even hesitating. I can't be with someone who's under investigation for this. I'm sorry." We'd been together for 4 years. We'd talked about marriage, about kids, about growing old together. And she left because other people told her to doubt me. Work was the next thing to fall apart. HR called me in on Wednesday of that first week. They'd heard about the investigation. They said that while I wasn't formally charged with anything, the nature of the allegations meant they had to put me on administrative leave pending the outcome. It was paid leave, but the message was clear: they didn't want me around. I spent my days in my apartment, alone, refreshing my phone for updates from the detectives. They'd taken my laptop and my phone during a search of my apartment, looking for evidence that didn't exist. Every interaction with them felt hostile, like they were trying to build a case rather than find the truth. 2 weeks after the accusation, my landlord informed me that several other tenants had complained about me living in the building. Apparently, someone had started a rumor in the complex, and now people were circulating a petition to have me evicted. The landlord said he couldn't legally kick me out based on an accusation, but he made it clear I wasn't welcome. The petition was particularly cruel because I could see it online. Someone had posted it on a neighborhood Facebook group. There were 47 signatures, including people I'd never even met. The comments were worse than the signatures themselves. I have a daughter on the same floor as him. I don't feel safe. Why are we waiting for a conviction? Better safe than sorry. Landlords need to do background checks on these perverts before letting them in. I printed it out. I don't know why. Maybe I needed physical proof that this was really happening, that people I'd lived near peacefully for years had turned into a mob baying for my blood based on nothing but gossip. I kept it in a folder with all the other documentation of my nightmare, the police reports, the lawyer's notes, the hateful messages. Evidence of my destruction. Work didn't just put me on leave, they basically erased me. My nameplate was removed from my office door within days. My access to company email was revoked. When I tried to log into the shared drives to retrieve some personal files, I found my credentials had been deactivated. A colleague I'd considered a friend, Brian, sent me a terse message. HR told us not to contact you. Sorry man. That was it. Years of working late nights together on projects, grabbing lunch, complaining about management, all reduced to a 2-sentence brush off. The financial pressure started mounting quickly. Administrative leave was paid, but barely. It was 60% of my usual salary, and my legal fees were eating through my savings like acid. The lawyer wasn't cheap, $350 an hour, and every consultation, every document review, every phone call added up. I'd started with about $15,000 in savings. Within 2 months, it was gone. I had to borrow money from my credit cards just to keep paying rent. Jessica and I had shared some expenses, and her leaving meant I was suddenly covering everything alone. The car payment, the utilities, the insurance, all of it became crushing weight. I stopped eating out entirely. I lived on rice, beans, and whatever canned goods I could find on sale. I lost weight not just from stress but from literally not having enough money to buy proper groceries. I started getting hate mail. Someone spray-painted Predator on my car. I had to file a police report, which felt grimly ironic given that the police were also investigating me for a crime I didn't commit. The lowest point came about a month in. I was sitting in my apartment at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, scrolling through social media even though I knew I shouldn't. Someone had made a Facebook post in a local community group, naming me and warning other parents to keep their kids away from me. The post had hundreds of shares. The comments were vicious. People like him should be locked up forever. I hope someone takes care of him before he hurts another child. Chemical castration is too good for monsters like this. I closed the app and sat in the dark, wondering if this was just my life now. If I'd ever be able to prove my innocence or if I'd be labeled a predator forever, even without a conviction. I thought about Madison and couldn't understand why she'd said what she said. Had I done something to upset her without realizing it? Had I misread a situation somehow? The worst part was the doubt that crept into my own mind. I started questioning my memories of that night, even though I knew nothing had happened. Had I gone upstairs? No. Had I said something that could have been misinterpreted? No. But the constant accusations made me second-guess reality itself. There were moments, late at night when exhaustion and desperation had worn down my defenses, where I'd actually wonder if something had happened that I'd somehow blocked out. That's what constant gaslighting does to you. Even though I knew with absolute certainty that I was innocent, the sheer weight of everyone insisting I was guilty made me question my own sanity. I'd lie awake replaying that evening frame by frame, analyzing every word I'd said, every movement I'd made, searching for something that could explain why Madison would say what she said. I became obsessed with it. I filled a notebook with timelines, with details of the evening, with proof that I couldn't have done what she accused me of. Vanessa had been in the kitchen with me almost the entire time. There was maybe a 5-minute window when she'd gone upstairs to get her phone. 5 minutes. Madison's room was at the end of the hall. The stairs creaked. Vanessa would have heard me go up. It was physically impossible for the accusation to be true given the layout of the house and the timeline of the evening. But logic didn't matter. Facts didn't matter. All that mattered was that a tearful 13-year-old girl had said I hurt her, and in today's climate, that was enough to convict me in the court of public opinion. The actual legal system required evidence, due process, proof beyond reasonable doubt. The social justice system required nothing but an accusation and a pitchfork-ready crowd. I started having nightmares where I was on trial, and everyone I'd ever known was in the gallery, pointing at me, chanting guilty, guilty, guilty. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, and for a few merciful seconds, I'd forget where I was. Then reality would crash back down, and I'd remember that the nightmare was my waking life. Jessica's stuff was still in my apartment. A toothbrush in the bathroom, a drawer of clothes, a pair of shoes by the door. I couldn't bring myself to pack it up because that felt like admitting it was really over. Some nights I'd text her, trying to explain again that I was innocent, begging her to just talk to me. She stopped responding after the first few attempts. My lawyer, I'd finally hired one after the police interview, kept telling me to be patient. The investigation would run its course, and without physical evidence or witnesses, it would likely be closed. But likely wasn't a guarantee, and every day that passed felt like another day of my life being stolen. I lost 20 pounds. I stopped showering regularly. I started having panic attacks when I heard sirens, convinced they were coming to arrest me. My apartment became a prison, but going outside meant facing the stares and whispers of people who thought I was a monster. Then, 6 months after my life exploded, my lawyer called me. His voice was different, lighter, almost excited. "Derek, you need to sit down for this." My heart pounded. What happened? Madison recanted. She admitted she made it up. The words didn't make sense at first. I asked him to repeat himself. She told a school counselor yesterday that she lied. She said none of it happened. The police interviewed her this morning, and she confirmed that the accusation was false. The investigation is being closed. You're clear. I should have felt relief. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt rage so intense that I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking, my vision was blurring, and all I could think about was the last 6 months of hell. Why? I finally managed to ask. Why did she do it? Apparently, she overheard her parents talking about divorce. She thought if she created a big enough crisis, they'd focus on that instead and stay together. She picked you because she thought you'd forgive her eventually since you were her uncle. The school counselor's notes indicate she's been struggling with severe anxiety and guilt. A 13-year-old kid had destroyed my entire life because she wanted her parents to stop fighting. The lawyer kept talking about next steps, about getting documentation, about potential defamation claims, but I wasn't really listening. I hung up and sat on my couch, staring at the wall. Over the next few days, the news spread the same way the accusation had, quickly and viciously. But the people who'd been so eager to condemn me were noticeably quieter now. A few sent brief text messages, "Glad it got sorted out. Sorry for what you went through." Generic, impersonal, insufficient. My mom called. "Derek, honey, we need to talk about this." "What's there to talk about?" "I know you're angry, but Madison is just a child. She made a mistake. She's been in therapy, and Vanessa says she's devastated by what she did." "She's devastated?" "Mom, do you have any idea what the last 6 months have been like for me? I know it was hard. Hard? I lost my job. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my entire family. People spray painted my car and sent me death threats. I thought about killing myself more than once. And you all believed her without even giving me a chance to defend myself." There was a long silence. "We had to protect Madison. You understand that, right? We couldn't risk. You didn't have to risk anything. You could have believed your own son. You could have at least listened to me. Please don't be like this. Families make mistakes. We can move past this." I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. Move past this? Mom, you told me you didn't know who I was anymore. You chose to believe I was a child predator over believing I was innocent. That's not something we just move past. Derek. I hung up. Vanessa tried to visit my apartment. I saw her through the peephole and didn't answer. She knocked for 10 minutes, calling my name, saying she needed to apologize in person. I sat on the floor with my back against the door, listening to her cry, and felt nothing. She left a letter under my door. It was 4 pages long, handwritten, full of apologies and explanations. She said she'd believed Madison because she was her daughter and because she'd been abused as a child herself and had sworn to always believe victims. She said she understood if I couldn't forgive her but hoped we could eventually rebuild our relationship. She said Madison was in intensive therapy and was genuinely remorseful. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink. My dad sent an email asking if we could get dinner and talk things through. I deleted it without responding. Emma texted, "I'm so sorry, Derek. I should have trusted you. Can we talk?" I blocked her number. Jessica showed up at my apartment 3 weeks after the recantation. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap. "Can I come in?" "Why?" "Because I miss you. Because I made a horrible mistake. Because I want to apologize." "Apologize for what, exactly?" "For not standing by you. For believing everyone else instead of trusting what I knew about you. I was scared and confused, and I made the wrong choice. But we can start over. I still love you." I looked at her, this woman I'd planned a future with, and realized I felt absolutely nothing. You left me when I needed you most. You believed I was capable of hurting a child. That's not something you come back from, Jessica. People make mistakes when they're scared. I was scared too. I was terrified and alone, and you abandoned me. You don't get to come back now that it's convenient. That's not fair? Fair? You want to talk about fair? Get out. She left crying. I closed the door and went back to my empty apartment. My former employer reached out about returning to work. HR sent a formal letter saying my leave was being lifted and I was welcome back with full back pay for the time I'd been suspended. They framed it as though they'd been doing me a favor by protecting my privacy during the investigation. I sent back a one-line email. I quit. I wasn't going back to a place that had thrown me away the second things got difficult. I wasn't going to sit in meetings with people who'd whispered about me behind my back, who'd assumed I was guilty without evidence. The truth is, I could have fought for my old life back. I could have accepted the apologies and tried to rebuild relationships with my family. I could have taken Jessica back and returned to my job and pretended the last 6 months hadn't happened. But I didn't want that life anymore. Those people had shown me exactly who they were when things got hard. They'd shown me that their love and loyalty were conditional, that they were willing to believe the worst about me without proof, that I was disposable the moment I became inconvenient or scary. My lawyer helped me file a civil suit against Vanessa and Troy for defamation and emotional distress. It wasn't about the money. I knew they didn't have much, but I wanted it on record. I wanted a legal document stating that what happened to me was wrong, that I was innocent, that they'd harmed me. The case settled out of court for a modest amount. Vanessa had to sell her car to pay her portion. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad either. I moved to a different state. Got a new job at a different firm where nobody knew my history. Started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma. Slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding a life. But it wasn't the same life. I was different now. Harder, more guarded, less willing to trust. I'd learned that the people who claimed to love you could turn on you in an instant. I'd learned that accusations could destroy you even if they were false. I'd learned that forgiveness wasn't mandatory, and reconciliation wasn't always the right choice. The texts and emails from my family continued for months. My mom sent long messages about forgiveness and healing and how life was too short to hold grudges. My dad called on my birthday and left a voicemail singing awkwardly, like everything could just go back to normal. Vanessa sent cards on holidays with pictures of Madison, who was apparently doing better in therapy. I read them all. I never responded. A year after everything fell apart, Emma found my new address somehow and sent a package. Inside was a framed photo from when we were kids, at a family reunion, both of us maybe 10 and 12, grinning at the camera with ice cream on our faces. There was a note, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I miss my cousin. I'm sorry I failed you. I kept the photo. I still didn't respond. My therapist asked me once if I'd ever consider reconciling with my family. Holding on to anger can be exhausting, she said gently. Sometimes forgiveness is for ourselves, not for the people who hurt us. I'm not holding on to anger, I told her. I'm just choosing not to have them in my life. There's a difference. She nodded slowly. There is. But you need to be honest with yourself about which one you're doing. I thought about it for weeks. Was I punishing them, or was I protecting myself? Was I being vindictive, or was I setting boundaries? In the end, I decided it didn't matter. They'd made their choice when they believed I was guilty without evidence. I was making mine by refusing to let them back in. Madison turned 16 last month. Vanessa sent me a message saying Madison wanted to apologize to me in person, that her therapist thought it would be good for her healing process. She said Madison had written me a letter but wanted to read it to me face to face. I didn't respond to Vanessa, but I did think about Madison. She'd been a kid, scared and desperate, who'd made a terrible choice. She'd hurt me more than anyone else in my life, destroyed everything I'd built, but she'd also been 13 and struggling. Part of me understood that. Part of me even felt sorry for her. But that didn't mean I owed her forgiveness. That didn't mean I needed to be part of her healing journey. She'd have to find a way to live with what she did, the same way I'd had to find a way to live with what happened to me. Maybe someday I'll change my mind. Maybe someday the anger will fade enough that I'll be willing to have a conversation with my mom, or Emma, or even Vanessa. Maybe I'll be able to listen to Madison's apology and tell her I forgive her. But today isn't that day. Today, I'm living my life on my terms, surrounded by people who chose to believe in me, who earned my trust, who showed up when things got hard. I have a girlfriend now, her name is Sarah, and she knows everything about what happened, and she chose me anyway. I have new friends who see me for who I am, not who I was accused of being. My old family wants reconciliation. They want forgiveness and second chances and a return to the way things were. They want me to understand that they were just trying to protect Madison, that they made mistakes out of fear, that families are supposed to stick together through hard times. But here's what they don't understand: I did stick together through hard times. I maintained my innocence, I cooperated with the investigation, I waited for the truth to come out. They're the ones who abandoned ship the second things got scary. They're the ones who decided I was guilty without trial. They're the ones who have to live with that choice. And I'm the one who gets to decide whether they deserve a place in my new life. So far, the answer is no. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some relationships, once broken, can't be fixed with apologies and time. Some wounds leave scars that change who you are forever. I'm not the same Derek Patterson I was before the accusation. That person died somewhere in those 6 months of hell, abandoned by everyone who claimed to love him. The person I am now is stronger, more cautious, less willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that makes me harder, maybe it makes me colder, maybe it makes me less forgiving than I should be. But it also makes me someone who knows his worth, who refuses to accept conditional love, who won't let people back in just because they've decided they're ready to stop treating him like a monster. My family wants reconciliation. They can want it all they want. That doesn't mean they're going to get it.